We are continuing with the teachings of Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj from the book I Am That. So now we have a situation where the questioner sees a separate world from that of Maharaj. Maharaj says that his world does not have anything and it is full of calm and restfulness. Whereas the questioner's world is full of troubles and sorrows. So he is inquiring and asking Maharaj if there is a bridge so that he can come to Maharaj's world of peace and equanimity. So Maharaj says, and I will read his words. Maharaj says, "See your world as it is, not as you imagine it to be. Discrimination will lead to detachment. Detachment will ensure right action. Right action will build the inner bridge to your real being. Action is the proof of earnestness. Do what you are told diligently and faithfully, and all obstacles will dissolve." You see, the ability to discriminate, or viveka, as it is called traditionally, is the ability to discern what is real from the unreal. And that is what Maharaj is telling the questioner here, that nothing has to be done. No bridge has to be built to come to my world. He says that see your world the way it is and you will be in my world. In fact, the two worlds are not different, because Maharaj's world is the world of pure being, the pure consciousness, which is the substratum of all experiential awareness. But the problem is that the questioner is identified with the limited mind and body. And that is why his world appears to be different from that of Maharaj's. And that is where the confusion is. So Maharaj is pointing out to him at each and every turn that your problems are because you believe you were born and then that you will die. So whatever suffering you see, whatever sorrows you see, you just want to get rid of them. You want to cling to happiness, you want to avoid pain. And that is the reason for your misery. But if you know that you are not born, you were never born and you will never die, that you are the pure being that was, is, and will continue to be, then there is no question of clinging to anything. So without clinging, your perception is direct. It is undistorted, unfiltered. And you see things the way they are. You see them for what they are. So, in that state, there is a natural peace, a state of equanimity. So the questioner again argues, he says that, that our sorrows, you're insensitive towards our sorrows and miseries. He complains. So Maharaj says that I can see that, you are in pain. I can see your afflictions. But again, there is nothing to be done. And he says, I will read Maharaj's word. He says the difficulty may be physical, emotional, or mental, but it is always individual. So you see, the sense of personal identification, along with the personal doership is the reason for our suffering. Because this sense of separate existence is identification with the limited. And this is what brings about suffering in daily living. Because all the effort of the ego is to sustain this separation. The ego mind is not really keen on dissolving the separation. Although the mind claims that it wants liberation, moksha, enlightenment, but it continues to create desires one after the other. Even the desire for liberation becomes a roadblock in the true understanding. So Maharaj is only pointing the questioner to his true nature, which is not different from that of Maharaj. He's saying, examine where the problem is arising. And most of people who approach Advaita teachers, they come with the expectation that somehow the master will give something, some solution, method, prescription, remedy that will just, take away the pain. But that is not the concern of the master or the teacher. The master is simply pointing you to your true nature, and it is you who has to discover this truth. The master has no power to give it to you. That is why Maharaj says that do what you are told diligently, and the obstacles will dissolve. The questions are as illusory as the sense of personal identification. It is the illusion creating further illusions. So, the problem is every answer will lead to more questions. So, illusion propagates in time, horizontal time. And Maharaj is pointing to the vertical thought, I am, which is the only truth, which is my experience, your experience. You can deny everything, but that is one thing which you cannot deny, your existence, your aliveness. So, Maharaj says, his words, there is no need of a link between a real world and an imaginary world, for there cannot be any. Now, he further says, my experience is that everything is bliss, but the desire for bliss creates pain. Thus, bliss becomes the seed of pain. The entire universe of pain is born of desire. Give up the desire for pleasure, and you will not know what pain is. Now again, the ego mind will jump with the question, now how do I give up the desire? But the thing is there a way to give up? Is there a way to let go? You just let go. You just give up. And I've had discussion with many people who say that, oh, now I let go of everything. Now I have surrendered to the divine. Who are you to surrender? The true surrender is the ability to accept things the way they are, and which may include not being able to surrender. If you think about it, the absurdity of statements that I will let go, I will forgive, I will surrender. Who is this I? What powers does it have to let go, to surrender, to forgive, to give up? When you say, I forgive them, though they did evil to me, though they treated me badly, but I forgive them. Who are you to forgive them? Yes, forgiveness happens, surrender happens, but there is no individual that does that. It is a impersonal happening. Surrender is never a personal happening. But you see, teachers will always say like that, give up the desire. Even Ramana Maharishi used to say like that. Now they are not expecting that, of course, instantly everything will be dissolved. Well, it may if it is God's will. But that is the way masters communicate, teachers communicate. That is the way each one of us communicate. When we see other people, when something bad has happened to them, you always say, oh, sab theek ho jayega, don't worry, everything will be okay, don't worry. You say all those things, but deep down you know that it's going to take time. Same is the case here. The questioner is restless, upset, and he wants a solution. But Maharaj is not giving a solution, because Maharaj knows that the moment he gives a solution, that is again an illusion. So to give a solution, to give a prescription for this, for self-realization, is itself propagating the illusion, is itself creating more and more suffering. That is why, these masters say that the desire for enlightenment itself stops the true enlightenment from happening. And the true enlightenment happen when the ego mind realizes that it is not the doer. As simple as that. As Ramesh would say, events happen, deeds are done, but there is no individual doer thereof. And that is what Maharaj is saying here. He says, because for the sake of pleasure you are committing many sins, and the fruit of sin are suffering and death. By sin, he means the sense of personal doership, that I am the doer of my actions. We suffer because we believe ourselves to be the doers. When we believe ourselves to be the doers, we also believe the other person to be the doer. And then the story of ego spins round and round. It starts, it strengthens. It says, oh, they did this to me, they did that to me. I should not have done this, I should not have done that. It is a constant tug of war between pride, arrogance, resentment, guilt, shame, blame, condemnation, malice, spite, hatred. It's like, all these emotions are pulling you from different directions. So what is in between, the sense of separation, separate entity, that is the one which suffers. So when the mind introverts to this I thought, then again, this I thought cannot stand there. It goes back to the source or the pure awareness. Anyways, that's a different topic. So, again the questioner says that this world of mine cannot be an accident. The world of hopelessness, despair, worries. He says that there must be a plan behind it. He says, my God has a plan. Now again, the ego with its sense of personal doership imagines a God, the God to be a separate entity in manifestation with powers, with the capacity for judgment on its creation. So we think that this God has an agenda. Now there is a cosmic law that the masters speak about, that there is an agenda, but the human object, the created three-dimensional object, cannot know the Creator's will. You cannot know the divine plan, because we may think that we have brilliant minds, but when compared to the immensity of the universe, that mind is nothing. It cannot comprehend the cosmic law, the workings of the cosmic law, the functioning of totality. It does not have the power to do that. So, right now, you may be suffering, you may be experiencing depression or anxiety or any trouble, any relationship trouble, and there may be no solution. And right now, you may feel that you have the worst life. But you see, as the time passes and this phase ends, you will look upon this experience, and those who have gone through this, they know what exactly I'm talking about. Those of you who have gone through this phase of depression and anxiety and all these trouble and in the worst forms of suffering, you know it very well that it got you to a place, that it got you somewhere where you were meant to be. Without that happening, this wouldn't have happened. I know in the moment it is unbearable. We don't want to be there. I mean, who wants to be depressed? Who wants to be anxious? But in the long run, you see that this may be one of the best things that would have happened to you, because it gave you an understanding of life. It gave you the ability to understand yourself. So for those, who are going through this right now, my heart goes out to you. I know it is painful. But believe me, let this phase pass. And, when you are quiet enough, that there will be a time when you'll be quiet enough, you'll be calm, and you will know that what happened for a reason. Similarly, all of our sufferings, all of the pleasures and pains that we experience in our life are happening according to a divine plan. But with our limited minds, we cannot understand the gravity of it. All we can do is just accept what is. There is nothing else we can do. And that is why Maharaj is saying, he says, I will read his words. Why do you worry about the world before taking care of yourself? You want to save the world, don't you? Can you save the world before saving yourself? And what is the meaning of being saved? Saved from what? From illusion? Salvation is to see things as they are. I think I don't need to explain this because Maharaj has said this beautifully. We are all in a hurry to save the others, to debunk the scammers. But you see, all that is fine. But what goes on within oneself is of most importance. Because unless the light within you shines with complete brightness, there is no possibility for you to be of help to another. You think that you are capable to change the world. Now, I'm not saying don't do that. If you are involved in some social work activities, do all that by all means. But do and forget. Don't cling on to the idea that you are changing anything. You are not powerful enough to change anything. The change happens as per cosmic law. The change happens when it is the will of God. Otherwise, you will keep banging your head. You will keep trying to change the world, make it a better place. But the world will continue to be what it is. And for the sage has the complete understanding that the world is the polaric opposite of good and evil. And he does not have the power to separate the two. He completely accepts that. Therefore, he is not concerned about the world. The sage lives in the now, in the present moment. So I think we'll conclude for now, and we'll meet in the next video on the teachings of Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj.